Hey, y'all. I am so excited. Welcome back to the Love Across the Pond podcast. Today, we are going to dive into communicating love. And I'm really excited about this because I talked last week about communication being a two-way street. And I also want to recap our definitions of love last week because we had some really fucking awesome definitions of love. So, what I said was that it was really expansive. We talked about how you can love everyone, and it's not just about loving romantic partners, but truly having relationship with everyone, right? And we talked about how that was really important to me, that we were treating others how our best selves wanted to be treated and not how we were wanting to be treated today, because we're all still flawed and working to get better. And then, oh my gosh, Kinsey, you gave us that really beautiful acronym. It was, I had to write it down because I couldn't remember it, but it was listen, be observant and open, validating others, and then exploring together. I really loved that. And then, Allie, you gave us those two words that resonated with Kinsey and I so loudly, and that was to be compassionately witnessed. I'll be honest, I had to look it up and like dig a little deeper because I knew what the definition of each word was, but not how they paired together. And I realized, like, who doesn't want to be seen and feel connected and safe, right? Like that creates love. And I am just, oh, I'm so excited about this. So excited about this. That just led me to think though, like, how do I actually feel loved? How do I express my love? And that brought us to today. Now, before we dive into it, I want to make sure we're introducing ourselves again because we deserve to be known here on this podcast. So I want to start by saying I'm Leighna Jewett. I use pronouns she, they. I'm in the US, in the southern US, so you hear me say hey y'all a lot. And then next up, we actually have Allie.
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Ali Hendry. My pronouns are she, her, and I live on the south coast of England in Brighton, UK.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here yet again. I am Kenzie Wilcox Ingebrand. My pronouns are she and her, and I am actually in Minnesota, so in the US. So if you hear very elongated O's and over pronunciated, A's and everything like that, then that is why you hear them.
I love that. I love that. So last week we did this really fun get to know you question, and I think we should do another one. Kinsey, can you give us something that we can just get to know you about?
Yes, absolutely. I really love this part of the podcast when we did it. And so I just came up with a question. What is your favorite crystal? Oh,
Ooh. Okay, so I don't know a lot about crystals, but I love crystals. I have lots of them. And I really am drawn to labradorite. And I'm a Sagittarius, so that definitely makes sense because it's one of the crystals that Sagittarius most benefit from. But it's the colors, it's the dark colors, the blues, the purples, the black undertone. I love it. Love it.
yes. Love that.
I
Love
don't think I've ever been asked that before. It's a great question. And I've got by my bedside, I have rose quartz. And I didn't know anything much about crystals. I did have a girlfriend years ago in the 1800s, and she was very much into crystals, burying crystals, bathing them in the sun and the moon and all of those kinds of things. So I kind of got into it at that point, and something drew me to this big chunk of rose quartz a couple of years ago, and it's been by my bedside like a comfort since then. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Rose quartz is such a beautiful symbolism of love, obviously. So that's just such good ooey gooiness for this. My favorite is amethyst, which is, again, bringing in the Aries. It's my power stone. It's my power crystal. And having the color, that's what I was drawn to first. And it's a very protective stone as well. So all of those great things. And then, of course, it just resonates with the third eye, which is wisdom, which is actually what uh, my surname or my cradle name is Vidya, which means wisdom.
That is so cool. Okay, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love getting to know more about us and to let our listeners get to know about us too, because we want to connect with you guys. So why don't you guys drop in the comments, what is your favorite crystal and why? Because we want to know too. And we'll get back to you guys in the comments because we want to be interactive, right? Like that's what this is about, is connectivity, right? And love. So as we dive in, I want to put out a disclaimer. Look, we're going to talk about communicating love. What's going to come up with that is the 5 love languages. We, on this podcast, do not align with all of the founder of the 5 love languages belief systems, but myself, what I have recognized is that this can be a really good uniform style to communicate with partners, with friends, with colleagues, with family members. And when we can understand what makes us feel more loved, and we can help others feel more loved by making sure that we're showing up in a way that they can understand and appreciate it, it's more beneficial for everyone. You know, people have different ways that they appreciate love and affection, and that they can even receive it. Receiving is such a big part of this scenario. We talk about giving love, but have you ever struggled to receive love? When I think about that, the first thing that pops up to me is like receiving a compliment. Has anyone ever said, "Oh my gosh, I love that shirt," and you're like, "Oh, this little thing, like I've had it forever." Why do we do that? Why don't we just say thank you for the compliment? Well, this person is sharing love with us per words of affirmation. Maybe we are not comfortable receiving love that way. And I'm hoping that what this episode will bring to our viewers and even to us is more understanding of where do we give love, how do we receive it, and where can we grow so that we can do it more wholly, right? With that, we need to also understand that culture, race, ethnicity, sex, gender identity, past trauma, and so much more are going to play a role into this. So with that being said, if you can't receive love one way that one talks about, please realize you're not broken. It's not wrong. It's awareness, and decide what to do with that awareness. And so that's what we're bringing here today. As we continue, I want to make sure we also talk about the fact that love isn't ongoing. This is something that takes effort, it takes time, and it takes maintenance. But how do you maintain a healthy love? Well, that really depends on the person. So here's where we're going to dive into the 5 different ways that like really can communicate love. First up, you have words of affirmation. We kind of already talked about that. I also want to say, like, a quick way to do words of affirmation that might not be the normal, "Hey, I love you," or "Hey, you're really pretty," is writing a letter. Allie, you said the 1800s earlier, and I cackled at that, but literally the 1800s, like, that's how we did it, right? There's something beautiful about that. Second up is physical touch. Now, I know whenever somebody says physical touch, a lot of people immediately go to sex, and I want to make sure very clearly that that is not what we're talking about. Can you feel love during sex? Absolutely, but that is not what this is about. This is about the smaller things like holding hands or hugging or getting massages or maybe like gently caressing someone as you sit and watch a movie next to them. It's those things. Up next is gifts. This is my favorite. I love gifts, you guys. And it's so funny because I hated gifts for the longest time. I used to actually have like a trauma response when someone would give me a gift. I would be like, "Oh my gosh, now I owe them," or they're going to hold it over my head. But now through my healing, I've been able to receive gifts in a way that I couldn't before. And now I love it. So small things, maybe you pick up my favorite mints from the gas station, or, my favorite, you go to the post office and you see stamps that have skulls on them. Totally here for that. That's a gift I can get behind. Quality time, not something I'm so great at, you guys. I'm more of like a fuck me and leave me kind of girl. As long as I feel like I have some attention, I'm good to go. But planning intentional time with no interruptions is a really beneficial way to show our love and affection to others. Key parts there is planning it and it being intentional. Coming home at the same time every day and happening to see each other on the couch while you watch the news is not quality time. Make sure we're clear on that. And then acts of service. Now, this is like running an errand or doing a chore for someone. And I think what's really important with this one is that when we're doing this, that we're offering it as something special. I found a lot of benefit in saying things like, hey, let me take that off your plate. Let me do that for you, so that that person knows I'm intentionally doing something for you. This isn't just like, oh, look, yeah, I'll just do the dishes. Like, I'm putting time and effort into this for you. So those are the 5 ways that we communicate love. And then in that, I think we need to immediately go into conversation. We need to go into, how does this apply into our relationships? So the first question I have for you guys is, how can someone identify how they feel most loved with this framework?
Mm. Thank you for that reminder. They are so powerful. And I know both of you have got the book by Anne Hoddership, Modern Love Languages, and they identify 18 different love languages. And we will put that in the show notes so that people can access that book, because it's great to have that structure of 5. You can have more than one, as you said in your description, and also you can make that shit up. You can have a love language to do with something completely tied to your relationship design. If you want to, you are allowed to do that. So I think for me, one thing that I do when I start a relationship with someone, and it's going to be a significant relationship, when we know that it's going to be something significant, is I request relationship books. And we both have these notebooks, and we write in them thoughts, feelings, ideas. And one of the things that we put in there is our love languages. And as you've said, we write how we like to give love and how we like to receive love, because your love language may be different. I mean, I love to receive touch. I love to receive acts of service. My favorite meal is a meal cooked by someone who loves me. That's my favorite meal. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's cooked by someone who loves me. Whereas what I like to do is I like to give gifts. I'm the kind of person who will put a little book together for you. I'll put the stamps from the first letter you sent me in a frame for you. My first wife, my first wife. I've only had one wife. I've had one husband and one wife so far. So far, there's still time. My wife, when I was with my wife, we started a lot of our relationship over text messages. And so for our first anniversary, I printed out all of the love text messages that we had exchanged, and I arranged them into this beautiful picture for her. That's me. That is my love language, giving gifts.
So you didn't tell us you were on here looking for your second wife. I'm gonna marry
You
you
heard it
after
here
that. Are
first.
you kidding me?
Oh my God. Oh,
You heard it here first. Well, more than one, because I am non-monogamous, people. So yeah, let's make it an advert. Why not?
oh, that was
Kenzie, you're having a moment.
oh my gosh. Yes, that was so beautiful. That really got me into my heart space. Um, Thank you so much, Allie, for sharing that. And I can see the love that you are curating and like the energy that you're putting into all of these in very intentional gifts, and then giving that as a secondary. So it's not just the physical gift, it's the emotion that you're putting into it as well. And so when you're talking about that, and then you're also talking about cooking their meal, right? For you is whatever you cook from you to me, that's my favorite meal. And it's because of the love and intent and just honor and support that they're putting into it. And they're thinking of you and the experience of you sitting down and eating it and having that together. All of that goes into it, right? And there's a reason why we like our mom's favorite, like chocolate chip cookies and goulash, actually, and hot dish, I guess you could say, so many something, is because of like the love and the support and just the connection that they put into it. It's beautiful. So it's so much more than the actual physical. It's the intention behind it that makes it so much more magical. So, goosebumps. Um, Thank you so much for sharing. My I guess you could say, love languages is or are that is the actual love language itself. So, um, as many of you guys will get to know, I literally speak like a different language. All my coworkers and anyone that comes into my very internal sacred space, I speak through sounds, noises, facial expressions, um, just like little phrases like kitten caboodle, those types of things. And once you get to know that language, you're in. You can interpret anything and everything. And so my husband and I, thank goodness he understands my love language to a T. So if I am like, oh, I want a plate, I literally say like, it's like a brain web thing where I'm like, cookbook, table. And then I literally go down. He's like, are you talking about a plate? I'm like, yes, I am. Thank you. It's the dumbest shit. But for someone to like understand me like that and really see is such an honor to be seen and validated. And that's where, oh, Allie, what did you say last week? Leighna, you touched on it. It was like compassionately connecting.
Passionate
That,
witness.
yeah, that is my love language. And of course, gifts. SpaghettiOs and meatballs, and then Hostess cupcakes. It has to be Hostess. It can't be Little Debbie. Sorry, not sorry about that. So like if you see that in the grocery store and you pick that up, it's like I will be your best friend forever because like you see me, hear me, and feel me. So yes, 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 yes. So the actual language itself and how I speak and the energy that I have, that is my words of affirmation. That is my love language. I know it's so convoluted, but like you'll get it.
I love it. No, it's not. It sounds very clearly like your love language is being heard and understood. Like
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like to me. And I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so let's say someone is hearing this and they're like, "Okay, I know my love language, but when I try to show up and love my partner or partners, how they aren't getting it. They don't appreciate it. So how do we help our listeners take this very simple tool, right? Because like Ali said, there's up like so many. You can create your own. There's books that talk about up to 18. There's some that talk about 5. I took 5 because there's no way in hell I could sit here and give you all information about 18. There just wasn't a way. But how did our listeners figure out how to say to their partner, like, when you do this, I'm not feeling loved. Like, I feel loved this way, but not that way, or to their friends or coworkers.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I love that you expand the love languages to other areas as well, because they're relevant. It's still about that compassionately witnessed. You're still collaborating, you're still communicating and connecting. So it's as relevant with your friends and your family and your colleagues as well. I think you do it how you said it, Leighna. I think you say as compassionately as you can. I witness that you have done this, and it feels like love for you. And instead of the but, we take out the but and we add in the and. And for me, this is how I like to receive love. These are some examples, and some people will need examples. They will need concrete, tangible examples from you. So do some work before you have that conversation on what you want to transmit. What are the facts that you want to share with your partner or partners? And what I quite like to do with a difficult conversation in advance when I'm doing my prep is to think about, what do I want them to leave thinking and feeling? When I've had this conversation with them, how would I like them to leave thinking and feeling? And that sets that intention for how I come across. It frames everything to do with how I speak, my tone of voice, my pace, my pitch, my volume, all of those things weave into that space.
I have a question about that. So how do you do that with still making sure that you are not turning into people pleasing?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question, because you want to be able to state your needs. You want to be able to share what are your yeses, what are your nos. You want to be able to set those boundaries. And it's a great question for people who really struggle with that. They weren't taught that. They don't know how to do it. And so that comes down to the place of what is mine and what is theirs. What can I ask for that belongs to me and is in my lane? And what can I ask for that is theirs and belongs to their lane? And perhaps even what belongs to us and our relationship lane. So it could be a way of kind of delineating what's mine, what's theirs, what's ours, to help make those requests.
Mm, I like that a lot. Okay, Kenzie, I'm gonna actually ask you a different question because I think that I think that there's just another question I would rather hear you answer. Um, so let's say that someone is communicating this. They're saying to their partner, this is how I feel loved. This is what I need to do. But it's not landing. The partner, the friend, the colleague, whatever, is not able to understand what they're needing. Even if they lay it out, even if they're very clear, what do they do?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and super frustrating too on the backside when the person is laying everything out and saying that, providing examples, providing feelings, providing everything like that. And so honestly, for what I'm feeling with this one is just a boundary setting, and a very good and strong one at that. And so, one core value and belief, that's what I base all of my boundaries on, is, connection. Is that if we aren't connecting and I'm setting the stage, I'm, building a lane, what's yours, mine, and ours, and again, providing examples. And because I want to connect with you on this type of level, whether it be a coworker, whether it be a friend or partner, I need to actually then, if nothing is landing with them, put up that boundary, that barrier a little bit more. And that is so hard to do because of the people pleasing and because of the wanting, like to be seen, heard, and validated. And so when you're not getting any of those, I do ask that person, like, or excuse me, I would ask myself, turning that light inward, of saying, like, well, this sucks. This doesn't feel well. And so when I start feeling those emotions and asking myself those questions, then it's time for me to put that boundary up. So then I would have to communicate said boundary to that other person who's just not getting it. And that's okay if they're not getting it. And I also ask, can I explain this in a different way? How would you
Mm,
like to hear this? Right? How would you like to understand this? Um, and this sounds really, weird, but like, is it a visual? Not to be like sarcastic. Do I need to draw it out for you? Do I need to map it out for you? But for realsies, do I? Because I'm willing to do that for you and for us. So kind of like, let me help me help you type of a situation. And like the most loving way, of course. But it's just, it doesn't seem like this is landing. How else can I massage it? How else can I switch it? Because not as an ultimatum, I don't want to put that barrier up, but I will. And that is self-preservation. And that is
mm.
such a good thing, to know how far you need to go and then kind of pulling back a little bit and putting those boundaries up a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's a type of compatibility. It's a piece of compatibility, right? Can you, oh, ooh, here's a good question. Can you be in relationship with someone who does not align with your love language? Let's say they don't have the same as you. can you be in a relationship with them? Maybe what Kinsey is saying is proving to you that in this space, that is not a yes. I think that there are, just like you said, boundaries. There are limits to how much I can twist this, how much I can say this differently, how many different ways. And you're right. Do I need to say it differently? Do I need to draw it out? You guys, we communicate 80% not through words. Not through words. Most of us are visual. I am neurodivergent, ADHD, autistic, DID, BPD. Bish is fucked up there. She needs pictures. She needs diagrams, and she needs phonetic spelling next to the words. Okay? I know that. And so I can say that to somebody, and either they'll give it to me or they won't. But there's nothing about the way that I need something that's wrong. And so where you said boundaries, I think that's a really big thing. And the reason I asked about the people pleasing from you, Allie, is because I've seen it in myself where I go into these conversations and I think, okay, I know that I am expressing love in this way, that they cannot accept it, and I need to find out how they need to accept it. And if I go into that conversation and they don't understand or receive it, and then I immediately am like, okay, well, how do I fix it? How do I fix it? How do I do better? How do I do differently? Because that's how I am. I'm a solution-minded human. I don't need you to present me with a problem. I need you to present me with something that needs to be solved, right? I don't want it to just be, this sucks, end of story. I want you to come to me and say, I'm not getting this. How do we fix it? And then I'm going to go into, this is what can be done. And I've worked really hard to get to a point where my fixing is my own fixing, right? So there's two-way street here. It's more than one person, or maybe we're talking about even a triad or quad. We're talking about it's multiple people needing to do something and take accountability. So, what do you guys think? Can someone be in a relationship with someone else if they have different love languages?
I think I would take that into the coaching space. And instead of having a binary yes or no, I would look at what's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is you ain't happy. You are not happy that they are not fulfilling the love language that you need right now. So from a coaching perspective, I would be saying, how can you find ease in not having that?
That's beautiful. How can you find ease? When you were talking, I just got this image of like molten lava, like the human switched into this molten lava to try to fit in the cracks and crevices of the other person. And it's like, that's not what you want. You want to stay a whole, healing human being and not blend in and fit and mold in and lose yourself, quite frankly, into the other person. So, Allie, you're absolutely right. It's not a yes and no type of a response. It's how can yes, what would bring you more ease? What would light you up? What are other things that maybe you could do for yourself to bring you that love language? And are you getting it in other places? And is that okay that you're receiving that in other places? Does that fulfill you enough, right? And then once you've kind of taken stock of all of those big, beautiful questions, then you could possibly, look at your partner and reassess and maybe kind of rearrange a little bit, either your priorities or everything like that. So it definitely warrants a bigger and brighter and quite frankly, like better conversation. And when I say better, I mean like more of like the robust, more of the open-ended questions, more of like the deeper 3 to 5 whys type of a question and thought process. So yes and no, duality, right? So that would be my response is, digging a little bit deeper and looking, opening it up a little bit more peripherally from that person's point of view.
Yeah. You know, something that both of you said and touched on and made come to the forefront of my mind is self-care, self-love. None of this can be done if you are not going inward and spending time to decide how you feel loved. And it starts with, how do I make myself feel loved? That's where it all starts. And that's my takeaway from this, is that at the end of the day, you can give me 5, you can give me 18, you can give me 150 different ways to communicate love. But if I don't know myself enough, if I haven't gone inward and figured out what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what is enough, just like you were saying, like I might not get my needs met from over here. And you know what? When I first opened my marriage, I said, I don't need each person to meet all of my needs. And I have since realized that is bullshit. Every single person in my life will meet all of my needs, or they are not allowed to be here. And so 100%, yes. Where do I fulfill my needs and where do others fulfill my needs? And are they being fulfilled? All starts for me internally. It all starts right here in my heart and in the love that I provide for myself. So I would love to hear what your guys' takeaways are.
Speechless. Basically, the takeaways, I mean everything. Give me a hot second. I love when Allie pointed out the different lanes. You know the movie Yours, Mine, and Ours? It's super duper old, and so yes, I am dating myself, but they did come out with another one 20 years ago. But it just really stuck. And that's how Matthew and I kind of delineate our house projects, is what's yours, what's mine, what's ours together. And honestly, that has helped tremendously. And so, Leighna, when I'm like, let me do this for you, let me take something off of your plate because that is part of your love language, mowing the lawn. Oh, Jesus. Let me do that for you. He was like astounded for like a day and a half, this kid, because I mowed the lawn. Never do it again, but yay! It was like, it was fantastic. No, I'll do it again. So I think those are the biggest takeaways, is how to delineate. And then also, it was just like, it starts with you. You can't go deeper with someone else if you can't go deeper with yourself. That's it.
Mm. I love the conversation that you brought in, Leighna, around compatibility, because it sent me off on a journey thinking about, actually, we don't need to be the same. We don't need to be that lava pouring into every crevice, as you said, Kenzie. We do need to have curiosity. We do need to have growth. We do need to look at, actually, what is the joy? What is that joy of being in relationship with somebody who is different from me? You mentioned right at the beginning, Leighna, thinking about how culture and heritage and religion and nationality and all those other differences age when you are in relationship, whatever kind of relationship that is, with someone else. So thinking about, where am I focusing on the wrong thing when I think about compatibility? I think that's something I've taken away. And then I love the conversation we've all been having about boundaries and communicating love. I don't know about you two, but boundaries is something that comes into pretty much every conversation I have with my coaching clients. So it's a good one to keep reminding ourselves of how to do it, particularly if we've got things like people pleasing coming into our sector. So how do we work on that boundaries piece around that communicating love? So I've loved this conversation.
I know, me too. And you know what? I just want to throw in a quote that I heard, and I'm probably not getting it exactly right, but the premise of it was, boundaries allow me to love myself first. And I totally resonated with that, because that's exactly what they are, right? So, so good. We're definitely going to have to do an episode on boundaries, because boundaries come up with all of my clients too, and with myself every day.
Yeah, yeah. And let's do one on compatibility as well.
For sure. Why don't you guys hop in our comments? Any topics around relationships, and they don't have to be romantic relationships, relationships as a whole, that would be beneficial for you guys, or love as a whole, that would be beneficial for you guys to hear us talk about, hear us find some insights and share our own personal insights and takeaways from what we bring to the table here in these podcasts, I think that would be a really awesome way to have this podcast end, is just letting us know where do you guys want to hear us go next. Thank you guys so much for being here, for holding space with us and being together in this vulnerable space. I really look forward to connecting with all of you guys, all of our listeners on our Instagram, over at Love Across the Pond. Remember, the E in love is a 3 because we're 3 badass bitches and we wanted to be represented there. But either way, we'll see you over there. And until then, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe here, and share this podcast with people you love, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is bring together these people in love, right? That's what we're here for. So we'll see you guys soon. I hope everybody has an amazing day. Bye.
Bye all.